making the connection. I think we are living in a world more than ever before where connectiveness is important. And I have a phone, and because we have everything at the touch of a button, when people text you or Facebook you or WhatsApp you, they think that you are right by the phone and you are doing nothing else but to respond to their instant messages. And if you do not respond instantly, they get worked up. Why isn't she answering? What's going on? She's ignoring me. And they forget that people do have lives. And they have a work, they have jobs. They are not just sitting at the phone to respond to every message. And sometimes I exercise the same impatience. When I message someone, I'm expecting that instant response. So we are living in a world where being connected is important. We, more than ever before, communication, we have so many gadgets and so many ways, so many means of communicating. But sometimes we ought to shift the emphasis from just communicating to effective communication. I remember when my kids were younger, if I were to be on the computer and they come by with something exciting and important and they wanted my attention, and because I'm busy doing what I'm doing, I would tell them, go ahead, I'm listening, while I continue doing what I'm doing on the computer. And you would hear from them, Dad, what does that suggest? I need your undivided attention. You're telling me go ahead, you're listening, but you are not paying attention. So we have to engage in our families. We ought to be intentional about active listening, where in order to engage, you have to disengage. So if I'm using the computer and my son or my daughter wants to talk to me, I have to stop using the computer. If I am doing something and my wife needs my attention, I need to stop and focus on what she is asking or saying. And that validates your family member, that validates your spouse. You're saying, when you disengage and you give them your undivided attention, you're saying that that person is important to you. And when you don't give your undivided attention, you're saying, well, you don't really matter. I can do something else while I deal with you. So that's crucial. Making the connection, surviving the storm. As it were, we are in a storm. You notice the two institutions that Adam and Eve came from the Garden of Eden with after the fall. These two institutions are under the attack of the enemy. The institution of the Sabbath and the institution of the family. When after the fall and Adam and Eve were put out of the garden, they left the Garden of Eden with these two institutions. And as a result, we are under the attack of the enemy. Satan is attacking the institution of the family. So we ought to survive the storm. What is a storm? A violent disturbance of the atmosphere with strong winds and usually rain, thunder, lightning, and snow. So those who are from Florida or from the Caribbean, you would know about storms because there is what you call the hurricane season. At a certain time in the year, you ought to expect strong winds, heavy rains, and all these things. Not pretty, not nice. Number two, a tumultuous reaction and uproar or controversy. There are different types of storms. And you know what? There's some families, should I say some families? Families do go through storms. And there are different kinds of storms that families are going through. You see, it's not whether or not you're going through a storm, is what kind of storm you might be going through. And as we look at these natural occurrences, and we look at these storms in Mother Nature, we can identify in our families what we are going through that is similar in terms of character, that is similar to the ones that we are putting up on the screen. So there are hailstorms. Am I not moving? Something is happening there?
You're not connected.
I'm not connected. You see the importance of connection?
Yeah.
This is useless. Eh? You see? It's going in and out. I'm losing it. Could you put it in front of the computer so that it can face me as opposed to the back?
Pastor Ferary, while they're doing that, can you go on that side so I can record you well?
What do you mean? Stand there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or closer to that side. Yeah.
Oh, you want to
Yeah.
use videotaping, that's why.
Okay.
Go back and forth.
There you go. Excellent. Excellent.
Want me to stand here instead
There
of
you
there?
go. Excellent.
Okay, you're giving me orders, telling me what to do. Okay. You're the boss. Okay. So there are hailstorms. And you know when it's hailing. And sometimes as we look at what the family is going through, it's like hailstorms. When there's a hailstorm, what happens? You hear people reporting, oh, the hail, these are the size of golf ball. And you hear the insurance companies, they are not happy because they have to pay for damages. So sometimes in our families, we are encountering that kind of storm. It's just constantly, just whatever the issue is, it's just coming down on your family. You are in distress. Then this is even stronger, that there are some issues, they're like thunderstorms, lightning and thunder, and kids get scared during this time. And what I see happening in families today that are going through thunderstorms is that parents are not as wise as they should be, because I tell parents, never have an argument or a dispute in the presence of your children. They would never be able to process what's going on between you and your spouse. It's going to be difficult for them to understand what's going on. It makes them feel insecure. It makes them take responsibility for what's going on between mom and dad. So if things are not going right between mom and dad, it brings a certain measure of insecurity in the life of your son or your daughter. So it is absolutely essential that you do not have these heated discussions, if you have to have them, or debates or arguments in the presence of your children. I remember when my daughter, that's our first child, was about maybe 1.5, 2 years old. I don't know who came in the room first or second, but myself and my wife had entered the master bedroom, and we were now on the bed. The door was wide open, and I guess both of us felt that the door should be closed. I don't know why. There were only 3 of us in the house, but for some reason, my wife and I wanted the door closed. So we are trying to determine who was the last person to come through the door, and if it was my wife, then she should have closed the door behind her, and if it was me, then I should have closed the door. And we are going back and forth. You left the door open, and she is saying, you left the door open. My daughter is present, she's on the bed, and I guess just about she must have gotten enough of that. You know, you left the door open, no, it's you left the door open, why did you shut the door? She had enough of it, and you know what she did? She got off the bed, and she went down, and she just closed the door, and she came back up on the bed, because she wants a relief from that stress of mom and dad fighting about a silly door. And what she demonstrated to us, exactly what she did, one of the adults in the room could have gone over and closed the door. And so sometimes we have serious problems in the relationship because of silly stuff. And we bring upon the family storms to the magnitude of thunderstorms. And then sometimes we go through ice storms. So we can cut, we are so frigid. Things are so cold in our families. Everybody is indifferent. Nobody seems to be interested. Everybody has lost their energy and their drive and their purpose. And there's so much coldness in the family. And sometimes we wonder whether or not the people that we live with, whether or not they have double personality, because at home they're as cold as ice. But at church, they seem to be so loving and warm and understanding and friendly. And so sometimes in our families, we experience ice storms, coldness and indifference in the family, resentment. We harbor resentment in our hearts, and we become so cold, we become so lifeless, motionless. Then we have tornadoes. Oh, they just come through when you least expect it. Since I've been in Canada, I've only experienced the announcement of a tornado once. We were at Camp Bowden, and everyone was asked. The older folks were to go to the basement of the lodge, and the younger folks were to go on the field on the lower end behind the trees. Everybody was to go seek, which not higher ground, but lower ground, in preparation for a tornado that would sweep through. Because when the tornadoes, of the problems in our lives, in our families come through, they take everything, And sometimes in marriage and in the family, we feel like that the issues of life and the vicissitudes of life seem to rob the family of everything it has got, and you feel that you have no more life left. Because after tornadoes pass, it's death. Everything is barren, and everything is so destroyed that you feel that there is no hope for this family. Then we have the lightning storms. They come through, and I tell you, lightning is pretty dangerous. You can get electrocuted. People can lose their lives with lightning, and so sometimes those shocks that come through your family, maybe a sudden death, maybe a diagnosis, something comes through that you were not anticipating, that you were not expecting, and it just hits the family in a significant way, and as a result, the family is in trouble. Sometimes we go through heavy snowstorms. And talking about snowstorms, it seems as though anytime I travel internationally during the winter, I'm always happy, how do I put that? I'm always fortunate that the coldest day or the heaviest downpour of snow seem to take place while I'm away. And I would call home or contact the folks back home, and they said, you should be happy that you're in Florida, or that you're in New York, or that you're in the Caribbean, because we have such heavy snowstorms here. You wouldn't want to be here. It's minus 50. So these are the storms that go through the family. Remember we said in the beginning, Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden after sin with the institution of the Sabbath and the family. And Satan has been attacking the family from that time until now. And so we have these storms. Then we have floods. You know, water is a very dangerous thing, right? There are floods that just sweep through. It removes these flood waters. They remove the very foundation of your love and of your marriage. You know, sometimes when we are going through our premarital counseling, and on the day of our wedding, we're exchanging vows of commitment. What? Commitment, eh? Mm-hmm. And of love. Mm-hmm. But when we are assailed by these storms, the flood storms, when the problems just come through, we are not able to stand. And I hear people say to me, Pastor, I can't take it anymore. Pastor, I'm out of here. Pastor, I didn't know. Pastor, if I had known. And you hear all these expressions, right? It's a storm that your family is going through. And if you're not good at interpreting the storms, and you're not good at navigating through the storms, you could seriously experience shipwreck, or you can seriously lose your family, lose your salvation, lose your life. Then we have derecho storms. These are serious storms. I don't know if they experience these types of storms in the United States, but these are serious storms, similar to, I would imagine, to tornadoes. So these are storms. Then we have the tropical storms that we are used to in the Caribbean. And when I have seen recently in the Caribbean, they have some tropical storms. Man, they just rain. They just rain. And sometimes you feel that way, as though the problems in the family, it's just, the problems are just raining down on you. You are just soaked. You're just drenched. You are just so consumed by these problems that you're faced with that you don't know what to do. And then we have the big ones, the hurricanes. And I guess the people who live in Florida and the Caribbean, we know hurricanes. I tell you, when you are experiencing a hurricane, you have to think of the structural integrity of the building that you're seeking shelter in. What are some of the places in the community that are usually used as hurricane shelters? Churches, schools, arenas. Why do they choose these buildings? Give us a couple of reasons why. Because of what? The structural integrity of these buildings. These buildings were constructed to withstand these kinds of storms. And you know what? Speaking of construction, I have found that many people who are going into marriage and establishing a family, they have very little knowledge, very little preparation, very little understanding of what it takes to have a family. And when folks come to me to prepare them for marriage, and I tell them that we have 13 sessions, you can see the expression on their faces. What for? 13 sessions? I'm an adult. I've got this. I know what I'm doing. We are grown people. We're not children. And so sometimes as you establish a relationship, you usually come to that relationship with the mindset that you have what it takes. Remember I said in my sermon, sometimes we always believe that the grass is greener on the other side. Until we get to the other side, we realize it's not even grass. So we are in a struggle. And I'm saying, I'm a big advocate for staying with your family. No matter what you are going through, like those storms, those natural disasters that we just looked at, like these storms, when we are going through these storms and we seek for shelter, we don't ever abandon our families because of those storms. A matter of fact, if you don't know, at Foothills, when they had that tornado watch, people were screaming, parents were crazy. They were running all over the campground looking for their children. So when there is a storm, a natural disaster that's coming, threatening, you look for your children. You look for your family. You'll be crying your head out if you don't know where your husband is. You don't know where your children are. You would want them to be with you. But in marriage, I find that when we are going through issues, we want to separate ourselves from one another. So it is important that as we face challenges in marriage, as we face challenges in our families, the key is let us resolve to stay together. Together we aspire, together we achieve. We are stronger together. You remember when the marriage vows are said, let no man put asunder, so nothing should come between you and your family. So let's review a few quotes on struggle. As I said, as we are going through life, we are in a struggle. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals, that's what Martin Luther King Jr. says. I love that quote. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. In other words, you don't just get to achieve success. You don't just get to experience progress in your family because you are a family. It doesn't just happen naturally. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice. Right? And you can begin to think about the sacrifices that you've made over the years to keep your family together. Right? You have to pay the price, right? You got to be prepared. Then suffering. Didn't the Bible say that all who live godly in Christ Jesus must suffer? Say you must suffer. You must be prepared to suffer, right? And then struggle. And this is not just passively, going through suffering. Struggle. You're fighting against the current, right? You're swimming against the current. Let me tell you something. Fight for your children, parents. Fight for your spouse. When I say fight for your spouse, I mean fight to keep the relationship. Don't give up so easily. Don't think that somebody else would better suit you as a marriage partner. You have to be prepared to struggle, right? Next. Eric Burden, inside of each of us, there is the seed of both good and evil. We know that, right? It's a constant struggle as to which one will win. And one cannot exist without the other. That's the nature we inherited, right? We inherited from Adam and Eve sinful human nature. But the good thing about it is we have the choice, right? We can choose to win, right? In the same way, we can choose to lose. And I said in my sermon this morning, sometimes we are so pessimistic about everything that we see the glass half empty instead of seeing the glass half full. So your perception and your perspective of life, your perspective of the family will determine whether or not you are going to be successful against the struggle. Anne Hathaway, I gave up my struggle with perfection a long time ago. That is a concept I don't find very interesting anymore. Everyone just wants to look good in the photographs. I think that is where some of the pressure comes from. Be happy. Be yourself. The day is about a lot more. How many of us spend our waking moments worrying about what people think, about what people would say, and we even lie about what we are experiencing to project a particular image about us and about our families. So we just need to be real. We just need to strive for transparency. We just need to strive for honesty. Because you know what? If things are not going well with me, I'm a pastor, right? And I've been for many, many years. If things are rough, I'm going to tell you things are rough. Hello? Yeah. You might say, well, Pastor, you're the Son of God. You're the servant of the Lord. Things are not supposed to be rough with you. Hello? Where did you get that? I'm a human being, right? And the Bible is clear that all who live godly in Christ Jesus must suffer. So we have to strive for transparency. We have to strive for honesty and sincerity in our relationships. We don't have to convince. You notice what I think that is where some of the pressure comes from. We worry about people. Rather than being honest and transparent. Rather than being even vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, you are putting yourself on the line. People might misinterpret you. People might misrepresent you. People might think lowly of you, but you shouldn't care about that. Once you're honest, once you're straightforward, once you're sincere, God is going to give you whatever it takes. I tell people at my church, if I'm hungry, I'm going to ask for food. And if you give me food and you want to talk about it, that's your problem. Your food is in my stomach already. Hello? You can talk about it as much as you want. And you know what? People suffer. People rather suffer and see their family go down than to ask for help. If you're struggling as parents, ask for help. There are people who have been successful against the struggle that you're faced with. So seek them out and find out how they did it, and you might be able to gain the victory in your struggle. So don't suffer in silence. Make sure that you call for help when the time comes. Okay. It is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Ladies, if you marry a guy that is in his mid-20s, and he has been living by himself for the past 10 to 15 years. And you get married, and you are now living in the same place, and your husband is used to putting his shoes as soon as you come through the door, right at the entrance there, he lines them up really neatly and nicely there, and you come in and you have a problem with those shoes. You can't stand seeing those shoes there. To your husband, those shoes have never caused any problems for 15 years. And they should stay right there. And you, the lady, feels that these shoes should be in the closet. And you both start a fight over the shoes. And then the issue with the shoes spills over into the bedroom. That when he comes to the bed, you draw yourself to one side of the bed, don't touch me, because of some silly shoes. Now, I would say, if the wife wants the shoes in the closet, even though I've been keeping the shoes there for 15 years, there are two things I need to tell myself. Number one, those were 15 years when I lived by myself. I no longer live by myself. I have to have consideration for somebody else. Number two, if it doesn't hurt me putting the shoes in the closet, I'll put them in the closet.
Amen.
Happy wife, happy life. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I'll put the shoes in the closet. And a word for the woman. Seeing that your husband was accustomed to putting the shoes there for 15 years, you should have some consideration that it's going to take him a while to get adjusted to the change. Sometimes he's going to come and forget and put the shoes right where he was used to putting them for 15 years. Be patient with him. Be considerate. It's a matter of working together to make life meaningful. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, you know? And sometimes we lose like we can't get up in the morning. You open your eyes and you can't get off the bed because you're so weighed down and things are so difficult for you, and you don't seem to have the will to go on. So sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Temper us in fire, and we grow stronger. When we suffer, we survive. You know, sometimes we have the wrong attitude toward suffering or difficulty or problems in our marriages, in our families. If you have the right understanding of what that is, then your response to it would be right. But if you misinterpret what it is, then you're in problems. I normally would say, when we understand man's ability to do wrong, whatever the wrong is, whether it's leaving the shoes there when they should be in the closet, or whatever it is, or putting the toilet paper roll, where it comes from the wrong end. So the wife says it's supposed to come from the top, and the husband says it's supposed to come from the bottom. So just by taking a new roll of toilet paper and putting it on that receptacle so that you can have toilet paper to use when you're using the washroom, it can be a source of a big, big problem in the marriage. Because one thinks the proper way for it to roll off that roll is from the top. And the other one thinks it's supposed to come from the bottom. And that could be problematic. So we have to be able to learn to work with each other. And as we go through challenges, as we face difficulties in our marriages, they are supposed to make us stronger and bring us closer to each other, not further away. Survival can be summed up in these words. Never give up. That's the heart of it, really. Just keep trying. How many of us give up so easily? You know? What are some of the things that people would give up? What are some of the challenges that people face in marriage and family today that they give up so easily when they're faced with them? What are some of the things? Finances. You know, finances is one of the research has revealed that disagreement over finances is one of the leading causes of marital failure. Leading causes. One of the leading causes. So disagreement on finances. Any other thing? Any other thing that people give up when they're faced with difficulty? Any other difficulty that they easily give up? What is it? Disease, yeah. You know, an announcement, a diagnosis. The husband says, no, I didn't bargain for this. You have what? You have cancer? No. I didn't sign up for this. I'm gone. No, I'm serious. People do that.
Women do that a lot.
They pack up. Hear the stereotype there. Women do that a lot. You're going to get some licks when you go home. Okay, that's just a joke. Okay, so we have diseases. What was?
In-laws.
In-laws.
Sometimes.
I have a presentation that I give in premarital counseling. The title of the presentation is In-laws or Outlaws. You decide. Some people say you have to ban them from your family, you know. Keep them away because they're trouble. But I make a case that we need in-laws in our families. Amen. Don't outlaw them. You know? It is easier to raise children today. Or is it easier to raise children today, or was it easier to raise children 20 years ago? It's a question. Right? Yes? 20 years ago? Why so?
My wife says the same.
Okay. Let's get two people. One who says it's easier, it was easier back then, and one who says it's the same.
I think back then, from memory, back then, kids were more respected. They were more kids-like. Today they're more,
You said it was the same. So let's hear your reasoning.
So what the way children were back then is relevant to how parents were
times.
back then.
Right.
And how they are now is relevant to how parents are now. What they are now.
You know what my kids have told me my kids who grew up born and a couple of them were born in the Caribbean, left there too small to identify with there, so they all grew up here, one was born here. You know what they told me when I tell them, or what they normally tell me when I tell them, when I was growing up, I used to have to walk to school, and during the lunch hour, I have to run from school home to lunch, eat my food quickly, go out into the pasture, change the animals, give them water, come back home, and run back to school.
Eat the food on the way.
And they quietly tell me, Dad, Those were your days. What do you expect? You expect us to do that? So times do change. And we should change our approach to parenting, not our morals and our values. The morals and values remain the same, but our approach should correspond with the times in which we are living.
Back then, if you made a mistake from the Caribbean, and anybody could fix you by the street, and you would beg the person not to tell your parents.
Yes. But that wouldn't work here. It's called child abuse.
That does not exist.
In this context, okay. The pace of life was more predictable and simple because our choices were limited.
One more question, Alan.
What's the impact of having more choices?
You got a question?
Where?
Zoe.
Yes.
It's not a question, it's just a comment that 20 years ago, like when I was growing up, not now, I wasn't growing up 20 years ago, but when I was growing up, the community helped to raise the children, raise the family. Community values were communal.
Yeah.
Now it's more nuclear, and so you have a lot more fight to do, and it's not the community that it's raising, it's values against values.
Yes. It's a clash of values. You're right. And remember the adage, it takes a village to raise a child?
Hillary.
So,
Even.
look, you have one sitting right in front of you.
That's why I'm saying pastor, because I reach a stage in my life that I think there are many social service, not to point finger on Sister Brown, that break up families.
We don't want to go. We don't want to take the discussion.
It's like driving on the road. There are some police, they think they are traffic police, but they don't know the law
Of the traffic. That's true. That's if you feel that you have due course, right? So that if you feel that you've been wrongly accused and wrongly charged, then you go before. You go through the legal process.
Can I say something?
Yes. In your defense.
So, what I want to say is this. I think Pastor mentioned it and Leroy is saying it, is that it's individuals that work in the service. And sometimes people might make decisions that, when we look at those decisions, they're not in the best interest of the child.
Right.
I know formerly there was more of a move to remove children from their homes. There's a whole shift
Right.
in how the service is operating now. In fact, there are people who are upset with us because they think we are not removing children
Right.
when we should.
Right.
But there's this understanding now, more so, especially as we have more people coming in from abroad, that people do have different values. They love their children and they're trying to do what's best for the child. And so there's more of a tendency to work with the parents.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked you how long ago that was for this child, because I was really very, very surprised
Yeah.
by that.
It's sad. Yeah.
And that's very, very sad.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit angry by it.
Rattled. Because that
Yeah.
14-year-old went back into the same.
Because now as a child makes a report, we will speak to the parents. And especially the person the child lives
Is
with,
accused, yeah.
you have to speak to that person because you have to verify
The information.
the information, right? So I'm very surprised by that. That's not generally the way things work at all. And yeah.
Let me just say, a few weeks ago, that there was a removal situation in Calgary, and the 3 children were removed from the house, but the authorities, and keeping with what Sister Brown is saying, the authorities allowed the kids to go with a family member until such time that the matter is satisfactorily addressed.
Perfect. That's
So-
a good example
so,
too.
yeah.
So that's another move that's more so now than before. Once a child is thought to be in danger,
Yeah.
we look for family members.
Family members. Yeah.
Not a home
A
that's
stranger.
not a
Yeah.
stranger's home. So if there's no family member, then. But the first move is a family member, and then and trying to resolve the situation. Sometimes it is working with the parents to educate them as to what's expected and what they can do and how they need to change.
Yeah.
Not so much your child is removed
Right.
from your home and that.
And we had a
So don't
removal.
be scared to call children's services if you need to, if there's a child in danger.
We had a removal situation some years ago where when a member of the church saw the conditions where the child was placed, they approached the social services and asked them if the child could be placed with them. That's the church member. And they granted it. The child was now with a member of the church, and until the issue was resolved with the parents. So I think that there is a movement in that direction. So let's educate ourselves as to how the system works so that we can make informed choices. Okay? Thank you for the opportunity to share with you at this level, and may God continue to bless you in your ministry here at Millwoods.
Amen.
Thanks, Pastor Dario.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ferary, for being here with us and for the blessing and the guidance and all the wonderful counsels we have received from you. God is good.
All the time.
He is loving us and sending us information that we must put into practice in order that we can have better hope, happy hopes.
Amen.
All right? And God is in the process, in the business of restoring His children and preparing Him for His kingdom. As He's restoring truth, He's restoring the family.
Amen.
Because He has created us in family, and He wants us to belong to Him in family. One of the things that I would like to say is not to add anything to what's been said, is that working together in family is in preparation to living together in heaven.
Amen. Amen.
If we do well in this world below, we will do well in the realms above.
Amen.
But we are not alone in this battle because the Lord is near and He's willing to work with us to help us to be overcomers. And the Bible says we shall overcome them by the blood of the Lamb.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else, family life? Okay. This evening at what time is the social? 6 o'clock this evening?
Is it what?
Yes.
Okay.
6 o'clock this evening, there is a social here.
Excuse me, can you make it 7 o'clock, please, because it's late already.
Okay.
Oh, it's back on.
Is that all right?
It's back on if there's 10, if there's 10 people, yes.
All right,
So,
because during the
lunch.
potluck,
No.
it was sort of
No,
canceled, but
because,
I'm hearing it's
you
back
know,
again.
because some people, the people weren't around to make their votes, so
Okay.
now.
Okay, social is on for this evening. Are we putting it for 7 then? Giving some of you a chance to rest, refresh, and maybe start home and change clothes and this kind of stuff. All right, 7 o'clock this evening, we will be meeting here, those that are able to come, and those that are going to the father-daughter's banquet. Yeah, this evening. It's an opportunity to bring your daughter on a special date and build some memories. If you don't have a daughter and you want to volunteer to be a father to a daughter, I understand there's still some daughters that could use a father. All right? I was called just a few minutes ago to be the father to someone. You see? So this is why I extend the invitation to those of you who might be willing to do that. So we can go and support this family life program, like father-daughters building memories for the future. Let us stand together and have closing prayer. Pastor Oliver, please come and lead us in prayer.
I'll do it for you. You'll do it. Thank you, man. Well, this has been a wonderful day. And it shows that God is still alive. That He's into the family business. Almighty and everlasting God, we thank you so much for the love that you've shown us. We thank you for being the God of promises. God has promised to always be with us. You're a God of faithfulness. You're a God of peace. And Lord, as we heard these wonderful words from Pastor Ferary, we ask that we will be able to bring it not only into our hearts, but into our minds, that we may be able to live it out, so we will all be able to go into the kingdom of heaven. Lord, continue to bless us. Continue to bless this church, the family of God, so that we will be able to see you very shortly. Be with us, give us traveling mercies, watch over our families, watch over our ministries. For we ask this all in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you all for staying behind.
Okay, I want to welcome my co-worker. He came in late, but he get the best of the day.
As I mentioned this morning, step number 1 is that you acknowledge that you have a problem. Don't bury your head in the sand and pretending that you don't. So acknowledge that you have a problem. Step number 2, we like to cast blame on our spouses. And one lady said, I said to a lady that was going through a divorce, I said, sister, in every marital failure, one party is never 100% responsible for the failure of the marriage. She said to me, Pastor, what are you suggesting? I am not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you a fact. When a marriage fails, one partner is never 100% responsible. So, Pastor, are you accusing me? I said, no, I'm not accusing you, I'm just telling you a fact. And then she left that conversation saying, the pastor accused me for doing something wrong that caused my marriage to fail. I didn't say that. I simply said, you need to search your heart to see where you went wrong. So step number 2, take responsibility for your contribution to the problem. Not your partner's contribution. As I said this morning, if you ask for the weaknesses or the faults of your partner, you might need extra paper to write, because you're an expert on the other person's faults. But what about your faults? You take ownership for your faults, right? And number 3, these are 3 steps to change. If you want to bring about change in anything in your life, anything. Number 3, be prepared to do all within your power to bring about the change that you desire. You see, sometimes we want change, but are we committed to doing whatever it takes to bring about that change? Or do we just make demands on the other person? You see, if I had the right husband, we would not have any problems. A matter of fact, we would achieve much more in this life. It's because I just got the wrong husband. So nothing is wrong with you. It's just you chose the wrong husband, right? That's a lie, right? Because there is something about you that you can change. There's something that you've done that brought about the breakdown of your relationship. Whether it's your relationship with your son or your daughter, or your relationship with the people in your department at church. Hello? Yes. So I don't know if that answers your question. The commitment is there. We ought to be committed, but at the same time, the church should not counsel people to stay in a situation where their lives are in danger. Yes.
Just referring to what you're saying, that sometimes, I should say, in a situation where there's a breakdown in a marriage, no one person is 100% responsible. And I know that it's sometimes very, very hard for people to hear that, because it might be a situation where the person is thinking, oh, well, it's my fault, or the other person is telling that other person, let's say for example, I was unfaithful because it's your fault.
You drove me.
You drove me
to that. Yeah.
And I've seen situations where it might be the person's fault in the sense that they put their spouse on a pedestal, and that's where they went wrong.
Yeah.
They put their spouse on a pedestal, did everything they felt they needed to do, but rather than put God on the pedestal, it was the spouse on the pedestal, and not really putting their feet down, to put it that way, when things weren't going the way they should have been going. So from that point of view, so seeing the fault on both sides of the equation looks different in different situations.
Right.
And I think that's why sometimes people struggle with accepting maybe I did something wrong, because they're seeing it different, like maybe I wasn't loving, or maybe
Enough,
I wasn't
yeah.
yes, and that hurts when you know
Yeah.
that you did all you personally
Could have.
done.
Yeah. But you know what? Don't let your partners ascribe blame on you, or guilt, induce guilt. Yes, you may have contributed. Your actions or inactions may have put the person in a position where the person became vulnerable to a particular thing. But at some point, that person made a choice. And that person is to take responsibility for that choice. Is that clear? Yeah? You agree with me? Because sometimes you hear, she made me do it. Or he made me do it. So the girl gets pregnant and, oh, he made me do it. Or the girl, or the boy would say, oh, she forced me. Okay? So we don't want to take, it's like Adam and Eve, right? Adam said, it's the woman. He didn't even say, he didn't have the decency to say my wife. He said, it's the woman you gave me. The woman you gave to be with me. She is responsible. And the women's liberation movement began that day. Woman, what do you call that? The feminist movement began that very day, and Eve could not stand there and have the husband accuse her. She said, it's the serpent. Right? And from that day, we have difficulty acknowledging our wrongs. It's not easy. It's not easy to take ownership. It's much easier to point out where the other person went wrong. But when it comes to you and where you went wrong, where you could have done better, you are very hesitant to do that. Anybody else before we say goodbye? Any other question? Yes?
It's not a question, it's like a
Comment?
to what Sister Reed said earlier. It takes a village to raise a child. But looking at where I am right now, I am an immigrant. If I was back in the Philippines, more or less I would have the same values.
Approach, yeah.
Right? But here in North America, I don't even know who my next neighbor is. You know, even if the child would be running back and forth and the parents are nowhere to be seen, 2-year-old running, it's like, you don't touch your children because
You don't.
you're afraid you might be, go in prison because you're touching their child or you're abducting the child. But here, we see that values, your neighbor has a different value.
Yeah.
I would have a situation wherein somebody's child complained to the classmate. Classmate said to the parents, guess what? That's what your dad did? Spank you? Call the police.
Call the police, right?
Yeah. Call the police.
Yeah.
So that's
Social
what they did.
services will
So,
come in.
yeah, so here it's like, I'm raising my child because the child is disrespectful. And I'm trying to straighten the child. But because somebody else now wants to put their opinion and say, hey, you can't do that. Not here in North America, maybe back in your country.
Yeah. But you see, we need to educate ourselves as to the laws of the land and how things work. And usually we come in and we don't pay attention to those things, and we pretend or we behave as though we are back where we came from. That's not wise. We are in a new context, there are new sets of laws, there are new sets of values that the government operates by. You need to be familiar with the process so that you don't put your child or your family in a compromising position, because you can lose your child to the system as easy as the snap of your finger. So we need to educate ourselves.
And that's where the church comes in.
Yeah.
That's where the church comes in and takes that place. The church becomes the social fabric now.
So the church can, to some extent, the church can provide that support. And I think that's a real thing. You see a 2-year-old walking on the street, you cannot even engage the 2-year-old by saying, where are you going? What's your name? You can't do that. Because you can be charged by the parents for trying to abduct the child. So we become so cold in a society like this, so indifferent that you see something happening, somebody's in danger, and you cannot even go to the person's rescue because you're thinking of your own record, because you can get a criminal record like that. Because if you're charged criminally, then that could be, you cannot even cross the border to go to the United States.
They can even do the right things and lose it.
Yes, yes. So that's what we're saying. You need to be knowledgeable of the laws of the land and understand how things operate so that you can be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. We had an incident in Calgary some years ago, quickly, where this 13-year-old girl went to her teacher and asked the teacher about corporal punishment. So the teacher began probing the young lady, who was from one of the islands in the Caribbean. She had moved here because her father had filed for her, so now she was living with her father. And the teacher probed, and the child told the teacher that the father uses corporal punishment for her. They did two things. They immediately called the social services. They called the police. They put the child on the phone, on her phone, called long distance to the Caribbean, established contact with the mother of the child. They made private arrangement. All this time, the father knows nothing about this. They made private arrangements. The mother traveled from the Caribbean, came to the city of Calgary, went to the child's father's house, recovered all her belongings, and left. Because the authorities allowed that to happen because the child was in danger, and when a child reports any such thing, the law forbids the teacher to contact the accused. So the father was the accused, right?
How long ago?
Oh, that was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. The child was taken out of a situation back in the Caribbean. The father fought to have this child here. So it took some discipline to get her reined in, because back then the mother couldn't control her. And that's why she was here in the first place. And she went right back to her mom, to that situation. So what I'm saying, we need to educate ourselves as to how the system works so that we can make the best choices in raising our children in the context that we are living in.
Even
Yes.
some of the authority, they don't know the law first.
Well,
I can tell you this. Some of these social workers
pursue that. And you remember 20 years ago when, our first kid was born, and somebody has to bring some serenity and some understanding to the table, because sometimes one party wants to charge, and it takes the other party to say, well, come, think about it. Let's not do that. Okay? So our beliefs, our attitudes, our feelings, our behaviors will be different. The differences themselves are not the problem. Right? So we make a big deal about our skin tone and which country we come from and what language we speak. Listen, that has no value. God knew what he was doing when he created diversity. And when we talk of diversity, it's not just diversity in culture and race, it's diversity in personality. We are different. We're unique. And God made us special. God made us unique. And we should allow our significant others to be themselves in the relationship. And so what we are saying, the difference is not the problem, is our reaction to them. Right? And sometimes I believe the reason why we do not associate or affiliate with certain people of different cultures is because of our lack of understanding of those cultures, of those people. And when we get close to them, we realize that they breathe the same air, they do the same things that we do. They might call the food that we eat by a different name, but we're humans. We are humans. It doesn't matter what country you come from. It doesn't matter what language you speak. We are all humans. I remember when I went to Zimbabwe, my hostess was having a difficult time preparing meals for a vegetarian because she never cooked for a vegetarian before. And I had pity on her, so I sought to relieve the stress. So I asked her, what do you guys normally eat on a daily basis? And she said, well, satsa, which is a cornmeal, white cornmeal, and meat and greens and what do you call those, beans. So I said to her, take out the meat, don't put meat, just give me salsa, corn, the beans and the greens. She said, Pastor, are you sure? I said, yes. Give me that for food. That's what you eat. That's what I eat. And when she was preparing the plate, her son in the kitchen asked her, where are you going with that? She said, the pastor. You can't give the pastor that. He said he wants it. And the son followed her from the kitchen to the living room where I was to see whether or not she was going to give me the traditional food. And how they do it, they bring a basin of water so that you can wash your hands, because they eat the food with the fingers. And she brought the basin of water, I washed my hands, and I dipped my hand in the food, and I ate it. They were so surprised to see somebody from the West, from North America, eating the local food with his hands. So we have to recognize it's our reaction to differences that pose the problem. I could have gone there and criticized them and say they're primitive, they're whatever, they don't know knife and fork, and look, they're eating with their hands. Who am I to judge? That's what works. That's what they like. That's what they want. Then we do that. I do that too. Hello? Amen. How does anger affect our ability to resolve conflict? Proverbs 14:29. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. Sometimes we are too quick to snap. We are too quick to do what? To lash out. We are too quick to form judgments. We are too mean-spirited. We are too harsh with one another. And it'd be a good goal for us to strive to temper that down and be patient and be kind and be understanding with the people that are closest to us. Proverbs 15:28. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. You know, sometimes what we do, we speak first and then think, rather than think before we speak. Galatians 5:19-23, King James Version. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they who do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So we see the works of the flesh being contrasted with the fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. I would want to leave with you today this passage, that you would keep uppermost in your minds that if you manifest the works of the flesh, there is no way you will see God. There is no way you will experience a successful family relationship. But if you manifest the fruit of the Spirit, you, in the face of adversity, in the face of challenges, in the face of affliction, you will achieve great success in spite of the challenges that you are faced with. Remember those storms? As you navigate those storms in your lives, be reminded that you need the Spirit of the living God to be with you. You shall hear the voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. Isaiah 40, verses 28-31. Haven't you heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He gives power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. May God bless you as we continue to build up his kingdom. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes.
Some people maintain that because of the because of the teaching of our church that that encourages husbands and wives to stay together no matter what. They maintain that this kind of philosophy has resulted in some cases in which a married person, a spouse, is put at a disadvantage, and they endure stuff that they should not have endured. I wonder if you could comment on that.
Okay, it's very clear that the scripture says that the exchange of vows of commitment and love were meant to be for a lifetime. That is clear. That the scripture in general makes no provision for divorce. Jesus says, there's one exception, Moses says for the cause of adultery that a man should divorce his wife. But God's original plan is for husband and wife to stay together. However, if an individual's life is in danger, there is no way that we can use scripture to say that that person should subject him or herself to that danger, that he he runs the risk of losing his life or losing their sanity. I would say, because of your commitment to your marriage vows, when you have a problem that you both are not able to navigate around the problem, you should seek out the help that is needed in order to resolve the problem. Whatever that is coming between you and your marriage, you should seek the help required to look after that problem. What I've found in my experience, sometimes you have one party wanting to seek the help, but the other party is not willing. I'll give you an example. And usually, most of the times, I should say, women would come to me and say, Pastor, I told my husband that we should come to see you, but my husband says that there is nothing wrong with him. And if I need my head examined, I can go and get it examined, but there's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing I can do for that couple, unfortunately. Because I cannot just work with the woman and the man is at home. And when she goes home, she has the commitment, but he doesn't have the commitment. So when she goes home, she's going to be back at square one. So the ideal thing is for each person to come to the realization that they need the help and they both come seeking the help. So there are 3 steps to change. What's the impact of having more choices? I go crazy when I know that there's food in the refrigerator. I know that there's food on the stove. And my kids just fussing. There is nothing here to eat. Can you see? Can you see? There's food in the fridge. There is food on the stove. And the kids are saying that there is nothing to eat. And that's a big problem. You see, it causes more anxiety today, right? It prevents us from making a choice because we have so many choices. When I was growing up, I mean to say, when you had bread and butter, maybe your choice is with butter or without butter. And sometimes you just had bread.
If you're lucky enough.
You don't have a choice, right? But we have so many choices today. We go to the supermarket, we go to the store. There's so many choices that sometimes, because there's so many choices, we don't make a choice. The same thing with our career guidance for our children. Do you realize our children are finishing grade 12? They're going into university and still don't know what is it they want to do. They're going into general studies, doing 4 years of general studies, and then figure out after spending almost $100,000 in university, spending $100,000 in university, and still don't know. It's because of choices. Too many choices. I went to a psychologist once to do, there was, I went, what was it? I went to a psychologist, and as I was sitting in the waiting area, I noticed that on the wall of the psychologist was a law degree when she was admitted to the bar in Ontario, and then I see the psychology degree. She's a PhD, and so I asked her about her career change. I said, what brought you from law to psychology? And she pointed, speaking of choices, and she pointed to the law degree, and she said to me, that was for my father. And she pointed to the psychology degree, and she said, that one is for me. So her father made her go to university and become a lawyer. And we use the pressure. We tell them, if you don't do that, I'm not paying for it. So, seeing that they're paying for it, he that calls the piper, how says that?
Pays the piper.
He who pays the piper calls the tune. So because your dad financed your university education, he wants you to be a lawyer, you go and you study law. And she was not happy. She was very successful as a lawyer, but she was not happy. Eventually she left and pursued psychology. So parents, I tell parents, when it comes to choices, career choices, support your kids, guide them, give them support, but do not decide for your children what career path that they should choose. That's a choice that they should make. Because they have to live with that, right? And they're not going to live through your values in terms of career choice. More choices require more self-control. And obesity is a big problem in North America today because people are eating themselves to death. I saw the largest man in the world, I don't know if he's dead now, he was from Mexico. They had to take a crane to get him out of the house, open the wall and to get him out to seek medical attention. More choices, we need more self-control. It brings more stress. Why do you think we get into all these problems in our families and so much fighting and our tempers are so short? It's because we have so many choices, we select things, we do things, we make very poor financial decisions, and we bring strain and stress on the family, right? You see somebody with a front load washer, your washer is a top load washer, you poking your husband, it's time for us to change the washer. There's nothing wrong with the washer, but you're poking your husband, it's time to change the washer because the neighbor got front load and you got to be current, right? I had a neighbor, I don't want to spend too much time on this, I had a neighbor who was very interested in what was going on in my yard, in my house. So my landscaping wasn't done, and one day a friend from the church came over, and we were talking and walking around the house and talking. My neighbor comes out on his deck, sits on the step, and pretends that he's working on the steps, but he's listening to the conversation that's going on between myself and my visitor. As soon as my visitor left and went to his vehicle, my neighbor came over, So you are deciding on your landscaping. And then you have to pray that the Lord will hold you back and make sure that you don't sin against God and against man. More stress and more anxiety. Lots of people are suffering from panic and anxiety attack. It's because of choices. There's so many choices. There's so many things that we have brought upon ourselves. Speaking of choices, I just moved from Calgary and I rented this house, and at the end of this month I'm moving out from that house because I'm realizing staying in that house with that expense is bringing additional stress on my family, and I need to protect my family and for now go rent a cheaper place so that I can relieve the financial burden on my family so that I can have a healthier family. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So don't go and buy the BMW if you can't afford it. Amen. Hello? Yes. Put your hat where your hand can reach it. Yes. Amen. Those who know what that means. You spend more time thinking and praying and deciding. So many choices. And sometimes we give God a little cue and we ask Him and we tell Him, Lord, when I come outside, let somebody talk to me about it, and then the person comes and the person talks to us, and we still want to do our own thing. So we choose to do what we want to do, and then we want God to bless it. The biggest challenges facing today's modern family is a lack of purpose and or vision. Challenges. That's true. Most couples that I've dealt with that are going through marital issues, they do not have a vision. If you ask young couples today, what's the road map? What's your plan? I have driven across North America with an AMA map before the advent of GPS. And the AMA would give you a good map. They would tell you where the gas stations are, where you stop to refuel, to buy snacks, and you follow the map like you can go anywhere. And when you have a purpose, when you have a vision, there is no stopping of what you can achieve in your family. So we have abuse, addiction, communication issues, divorce, grief, parenting, sexuality issues, where we're not sure if we are male or female anymore, and we have to be very careful of how we say that because it's not politically correct anymore. Suicide, peer pressure, and pornography, it's a big, big problem. This is a cancer to the family. It's robbing couples, it's robbing husbands and wives of their commitment and their intimacy between each other. It's giving our children a false sense of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. It's eroding the moral fabric of our society. At the touch of a button, you can get access to anything on the internet. It's amazing how easily available these things are to our innocent children. So we are faced with all these vicissitudes of problems and challenges, and sometimes they can become very, very overwhelming. Pornography is a toxic counterfeit and misuse of the sacred and powerful God-given gift of human sexuality. Pornography negatively impacts our relationships with God, family, and even ourselves. It's a big, big, big problem. It's so easy to get caught up in it, and it's so difficult to get away from it. Let's talk about conflict resolution. And many people in their marriages and in their families, rather than anticipate conflict, they literally bury their heads in the sand and thinking that conflict will not come. Once we are human beings, once we are on this side of heaven, there will be conflicts. There are husbands and wives that would tell you, oh, we don't fight, we are good. Lie. There is conflict in every relationship. Right? Is that true?
Yes, yes.
Is there somebody here that doesn't experience conflict? Okay. I thought so. Okay. Our beliefs, our ideas, attitudes, and feelings and behaviors will be different. So we don't have to change who we are. Right? If your spouse doesn't like A, B, or C, you don't have to kind of berate them. You don't have to bring them down because they don't like what you like. We are individuals. We have our tastes, we have our preferences, and it's okay for you to be in a relationship where your partner has his or her preferences. You know what I'm saying? Don't beat the person down because they don't like what you like. Because God made us unique. Because I think I'll be crazy if my wife was just like me. There'll be fireworks in that house. You know, yeah, because my wife is the calm kind of person that would not, you know, kill a fly, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm the troublemaker, right? So when someone says kill, somebody has to say, oh no, let's not kill. Because if one says kill, the other one asks, where are we going to bury? It's going to be fireworks. That's going to be fireworks. So we're going to be having clashes after clashes. So somebody has to temper it down. Somebody has to cool it down. Somebody has to say, think about it carefully. I don't think we should.